Welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be about the Springfield KUNA after 5 months. I'm going to talk about the recoil impulse on this a little bit more in detail. We're going to get into the round being able to get into the lower control unit, reliability of course, and probably the hottest topic, the magazines. I've got good news to report on that. And like many of you, I've scoured the internet for any other problems that have come up with the KUNA, and I've tested them on my copy. So essentially I've scoured the internet for other people that may be having trouble with the KUNA, and I've got some thoughts on that. This video is not sponsored by Springfield, but it does have a sponsor, and that would be Coats of Anarchy, as well as the channel sponsor of evokestudio.io. Recoil and shootability, the closest thing I have to compare it to is a CZ Scorpion. I agree with most of the videos I've seen online that compare this slightly better than a typical blowback pistol caliber carbine. Visually, it seems like it's not quite as good as the legendary MP5. People hear the roller delayed part of it and they're expecting MP5 results. That doesn't exactly seem to be the case. TA Target sent me out these new C-Zone targets. I was able to put some rounds down range with the KUNA and compare it to some other guns to get an idea of like where is the recoil impulse on this thing and what are my thoughts about it. 2 to the body, 1 to the head. That's what that weapon is doing with my skill set. So pretty quick and effective for super close stuff. And this is where I just pulled up and shot in under 2 seconds. I was aiming roughly here, and that's where my grouping was. I get 5 in the A zone. That is a rapid fire in like under 1 second. Pretty happy with that. Let's move to 25 yards. There's a video on the channel already where I added this stock on the back and made it extra heavy. I SBR'd it to see how far could I take the KUNA and bring that recoil impulse down to just an enjoyable level. I think anytime you make a weapon heavy, that helps cover up undesirable parts of the recoil that you're feeling. It doesn't necessarily fix the problem, at least makes it more controllable. That's physics, right? Fucking science. Another thing that really seemed to help was bring this buttstock down. You might find that to be advantageous to help with the felt recoil, or at least bring it into a pattern that you can make work for yourself. What I mean by that, there's that initial pushback, of course, that you have from a typical recoil, and this weapon wants to seesaw quite a bit more than your typical AR-15, for example. I did notice the further back I flip myself from the weapon, that helped with the seesaw nature of things. The recoil is really manageable. I did let a friend shoot it after he'd been running his AR-15 all day, and he just started giggling or laughing because it was just silly on how fun and easy this thing was to shoot. So high marks on recoil. After you get a few hundred or 1,000 rounds through it, you'll be able to start timing it to where that red dot kind of comes in and settles right back in on your
trivia.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, were you filming?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wait. Got interrupted by the lady. It does have a specific recoil impulse. It's not completely unlike the CZ Scorpion. It's more jumpy recoil than it is a pushy recoil. So my AR-15, it feels like it pushes me back more. And this one sort of jumps back. It's a little bit different than some of the other rifles that I've shot. But once I got the idea, I was able to really start running this weapon a lot quicker. And I do want to clear up a misconception from my first video. In regards to the round getting into the lower control unit, you're not going to be running this weapon. You're not going to end up with some magic round that doesn't exit the gun and just magically fly into the lower control unit. And it's very predictable and very repeatable and shooter caused. It's happened to me twice. Once not really paying attention. After the 14th time, I was clearing that chamber to adjust my red dot. And then the second time, thought I had an empty magazine and I was just wrapping up that firing session. Clear your weapon before you move on to whatever's next. I just did another lazy charge of the handle, and I caused a little traffic jam in there. I think I actually might have done it this way, but it still somehow got caught and went down to the lower control unit. So one of the things that I did to make this even less of an issue is, besides not fucking doing that, I did add an additional step into my dry fire drills, practiced on. And I usually can do that in like around 5 seconds. What I found on the internet is that, let's see, a few things. It's been a minute since I looked this up. One, that this is not entirely uncommon with other pistol caliber carbines, even with some MP5s. This is a known issue or a known problem, and there's some theories out there, whether it be you try to make a... the theory on this one, it was originally designed for 40 cal, and they moved it to 9 caliber as well. The Strybogs had this issue. There's some other firearms out there with this known issue, so it wasn't as novel as I thought it was when I first experienced it. I was just coming at it from an ignorant place thinking, yeah, no, it shouldn't be able to do that. Like, this is not magic. It's an engineering issue. Can I make a firearm that doesn't allow a round that can travel from the chamber into the firing control unit? HBI emailed me and said, hey, don't get rid of your KUNA if you like it. We are working on some upgrades for this. You know, we'll shoot you over some stuff as soon as we get them done. I expect that to be coming through at any time now. Pretty much anything that's on the CZ Scorpion that you see on it is from HBI. So they know what they're doing. They make good stuff. They've been around the block before. It's such a repeatable and predictable problem that I can avoid it with my behavior. So much to the point where I believe in this particular platform, I went ahead and spent the money to SBR. All right, in regards to the KUNA mags, they are moving quite well. No hang up, exactly as you would expect them to work. So I'm happy to report that the KUNA mags are doing quite well at just over 1,000 rounds. So I felt the magazines after a few hundred rounds, and it did have a little bit of a stickiness to it. I cleaned them out with some CLP, which a lot of people were yelling at me, do not oil your magazine. So went down the rabbit hole to try to find some good, clear information on what cleaners were good with what kind of polymers or plastics. And the CLP cleaner that I was using and all the ingredients in there I couldn't understand seemed to play nicely with all polymers and plastics. I also understand that there's a difference between a black magazine and a clear magazine. So all my research indicated that the cleaner / lubricant that I was using was good to go for these magazines. So my thoughts on this are that the magazines have a bit of a break-in period to smooth out any rough spots in them. I'm not saying that that's a good thing or that I should have to do that after I purchased a brand new firearm, but that seems to be the case with this. And I did not this follower with any kind of sandpaper or anything like that. I just ran it and put a little bit of cleaner in it. Most people online are saying just use Dawn soap to clean them up. I didn't, but you could certainly. CLP cleaner when I first got them to help them out, and then I also cleaned my weapon with the CLP. And the KUNA, as many of you know, has a lot of blowback, makes it a dirty trigger system, and blows a lot of carbon down into these mags. And so if I have CLP on the bolt carrier group or on the bolt, then there's going to be a little bit of that going into mags themselves. But they seem dry right now, and they are working as they should be. I do have a little bit of a theory and actually a bone to pick with a lot of people reviewing this gun online and other guns like it. They will grab the gun and start running it without lubricating it. From my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of these machine parts ship with assembly lube or assembly grease that helps keep it from rusting or corroding while it's waiting to be used. That is not a lubricant designed to run the gun on. And so not just firearms related, I have machine parts for cars and motorcycles sent to me that the petroleum-based product on it is not designed to be used as a lubricant. Assembly lube is very different than oil. And I suspect that if the magazines were already having a break-in problem or even have an issue, understandably, that if you are running a gun and blowing assembly lube in there, that is not going to help the potential problem that are in these magazines for some people. There is one person online showing a cracked magazine back here. I don't know what kind of cleaners he may or may not have been using. Keep an eye on it. Looking at this from a satellite view, pulling from direct experience that I have so that I can speak a little bit on it, at least from my perspective. The original Scorpion magazines had huge problems. They had no metal feed lips. The things were cracking all the time. Companies came out and they started making magazines that look exactly like this. Speaking of the CZ Scorpion, that brings up one of this video's sponsors, and that is Coats of Anarchy. So let me run this quick mid-roll for you, and I'll see you in 30 seconds. Do you want to be one of the cool kids? Well, of course you do. I'm going to help you out with that while saving you some money. I'm going to send you over to Coats of Anarchy, that's Coats with a K, for custom Cerakote and laser engraving done right. His Cerakote work and engravings are second to none, and I can't speak highly enough about him and his wife as people. U.S. business in Florida, firefighter, and a nurse. Doesn't get any better than that. Head over to the website, fill out the form, pick your service you need, and be sure at the bottom at the additional project details to put in "The Gun Channel sent me and hook me up." And don't forget to say please. Submit that form and he'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right, back to the video. You see the link below for the specific video on that. Would I recommend this? No. It's a cool stock buffer, fake buffery foldy thing, but I wouldn't recommend it. This locking mechanism is just super annoying. I don't think I can send that back, so I'm probably stuck with it. And actually, that leads me into, should you SBR yours? I think, sure, I fucking did it, and it's all good. However, the original pistol brace that came on this comes out to roughly the same length as this stock is here now, and this length is where I like to run this gun. Just happens to be pretty close to the desirable lengths. I didn't know that until I had an adjustable stock and I could shoot it at different lengths. But now that I have, the original brace / stock length was actually pretty good for me. So take that for what you will. And this vertical grip is nice. However, I think you could still get a lot of the benefits by just using a hand stop up front here to get that C grip support if you're looking for that up front. And you can also burn your finger on a suppressor if you're into that. Sick bastards. Now let's talk reliability. When running it, it just will not stop running. Doesn't care what I feed it. The son of a bitch just runs. Suppressed, unsuppressed, doesn't care. Whatever. Let's go. And now attaching that to other people, reviewers that I trust. Grand Thumb had like 2,000 rounds through his with no issues. Brass Facts had 5,000 rounds through his. So when you combine all of the trusted YouTubers running around that are actually running their equipment like Brass Facts, these numbers really start to add up. At least the basic design itself and the first 10,000 rounds seems to be really, really solid. We'll have to see how it goes for a long-term review, but the reliability is really cool, and that did play a part in why I chose to lean into this gun with an SBR, especially with the momentum it seems to have, and I have high confidence that the aftermarket support will jump on board with this thing and continue to give us more options. And speaking of Grand Thumb, he did bring up one potential issue. He was talking about this 1/2x28 thread on the front here. Barrel has a small shoulder, at least a smaller one that he'd like to see, and that when he was putting on different muzzle devices, he wasn't comfortable on how small that shoulder was. When you take off the original brake from this gun, that little angled piece right there is between the original muzzle device and the barrel. So if you just leave that on, that gives you a little bit more shoulder. So I'm not an expert in this matter, but just a comment on one complaint Grand Thumb Mike over there had. Now, in regards to the trigger and the safety, I've got a lot of things to say about that. Now, comparing it to the CZ Scorpion, I have a lot of rounds on that particular gun, and it's a fair comparison, and I can rely on my experience to make some sort of coherent sense and usable information for you guys. But the CZ Scorpion had, quote unquote, a too long of a safety on the one side, so everybody was complaining that it was digging into their shooting finger. So then the aftermarket jumped on it and made all these different sizes. Now, this is a mirrored gun, and I mean truly mirrored. Safeties are exactly the same. All the buttons are exactly the same on both sides. And not just like, hey, if you're lefty or righty, you can use this gun either way. It is truly mirrored, so that is really cool. The only thing that isn't quite 100% equal on both sides, is that right? 50% equal on both sides? I don't know. The buttons are exactly the same spot, but the left-hand magazine release is maybe 2 or 3 times harder to push than the right-hand side. looks like a cantilever that favors the right-hand side to give it more leverage. If you're going to totally get that mirrored game going, then yeah, you're not going to be able to put a full-length safety on this side. So the benefit is it's not going to dig into your shooting hand while you're shooting the weapon. The downside is it might leave you wanting if you're looking to manipulate that safety with only one thumb or one side. And the other complaint on that safety is a little stiff. There's a gentleman online. I'll see if I can find the video. I'll link it below if I do. It has a very similar detent to how an AR-15 works inside here. And you can I'm cool with how hard the safety is to manipulate. When I'm out shooting in the hot sun and there's a lot of stuff going on, especially if I have gloves on, I really appreciate that extra tactile. I know it's on, I know it's off, but there's a very tactile, heavy experience. So I'm going to leave the safety as it is for now. Works great for me. So those are my thoughts on that. In regards to the trigger, there are people that I'm not trying to shoot a hole in my wrist. So we have the take up, the creep, and the release. That is a nice trigger. A common thing that I see online is people say, I don't know about this trigger. I don't like the way it feels. And then they go to the range and they shoot it and they go, actually, the trigger's pretty good. So I'm not sure I trust even myself, much less other people, on if we know what a good trigger is by just sitting in our living room, pulling it, dry firing it over and over again. Really, how does the trigger work at the range? And can I make the gun do what I want it to do? Is this trigger holding me back? And for me, the answer is no. So all that to say is any of the complaints I hear about the trigger seem to be more related with people trying to see what it feels like in dry fire versus actually running it at the range. So the trigger's good. So that's nice. This video made possible by Codes of Anarchy, which you probably already saw in the mid-roll. And for our main sponsor, we've got to thank evokestudio.io for all your photography and videography needs. There's not another business that I'm aware of that can create the production value that we create with such a small footprint. So you're definitely going to want to reach out to us. And we specialize in firearms-related production. Speaking of which, we are the photographers and videographers for the Patriot Games. So find out more about that at thepatriotgames.us, and we look forward to seeing you guys there. Also, I should say, I shit the bed. I ordered or asked for O-Sight to send me a red dot and riser for this gun. The idea was I'm going to still utilize these backup sights if I want to and be able to look underneath the red dot that I have mounted on top of this. I asked for the wrong riser, the wrong red dot. I pretty much did everything wrong. Then I lost a screw for it. There's an OCD, ADHD part of my brain that I just can't turn off. Having sights on a gun that I can't use. The reason why is because these sights are actually, I really like these sights. All that to say is that if you are on a budget and you want to get into this thing, you could get away with these iron sights and a flashlight. So pick up the gun. It's got a pistol brace on it. Use these iron sights, throw a light on it. You're good to go for a little bit of a home self-defense. I had a situation at the range, pulled this firearm out of my cold car. The red dot immediately fogged up. I can't see through it. So coming out of a cold house, say in Florida, and then running this system outside on a humid evening, for example, would be a no bueno. Even if I had the backup iron sights up and running, I don't think I could see through that foggy glass. So another win for the offset iron sights versus even an offset secondary red dot system. So if I had to, I'd just reach up and do that and get a shot off. So there's some value to raising that red dot up and then using backup sights underneath it is not a bad option. So to get a even more detailed, usable review on this, I would definitely go over to Brass Facts. He has probably my favorite review on this gun, especially the highest round count that I've seen online so far, as well as how he's using it and just running the shit out of it is more along the lines, I think, of how most people would use it in the most extreme circumstance as a civilian. I've been kind of on this Brass Facts rabbit hole watching all of his videos, for better or worse, and I do enjoy the oxytocin of him showing his dog at pretty much the end of all his videos. So, in the spirit of Brass Facts, thank you, sir, for running an awesome channel. And secondly, this is Boca. You're welcome. the belly that where I need to be. Right on the belly. Hey, you guys are still here? Well, thanks for sticking around the channel this long. YouTube is doing a fantastic job of making a channel like this one really hard to monetize and keep up and running. So if you or anybody you love and know would like to have me and Jessica come out and do your wedding, reach out and let us know. I'm going to leave a super long sample video clip of some of the work we've done in the wedding industry over the last few years. You can find us at evokestudio.io, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks.